Roxie Roots is a trauma survivor of CSA, child sexual abuse, who ended up in the sex trade after a lifelong struggle of not fitting in. She got out by realizing the abusive patterns of relationships, BDSM, and kink, the sex industry, and the trans industry were all the same. She's experienced herself how pornography shapes and fuels our culture.
Hi, everyone. Like my only aim is and was since I left is to shout out and scream about what I saw because, it shocked me to the core when I finally understood what I've been through and what I'm living through actually in this world that is now denying women their whole rights and even going as far as calling transvestic fetishists women. So that's kind of my only my only aim is to inform as many women as possible about the depravity that is actually happening. I had this long paying slave, and I went a bit over my scope, so I have to say that I have always been a really shit dominatrix because my aim was always to understand how they got there, and I asked a lot of questions because I knew indeed that all these fetishes, these kind of like very specific things that these men came up with, they come from somewhere. And what I've came to understand is how much obviously like the household that you grew up in really affects you, I think, to a very, very big degree. And this man who was just a couple of years younger than me, I kind of felt a bit, I was sorry for him. Like I saw that he was struggling, and I saw that what he was doing and saying about himself was, like homophobic, like all of these kind of things, like he's a bisexual. Like before he came out as anything, he was just a bisexual, and the only way that he could live it out was by dressing up as a woman. So like he was someone who first actually booked or like wanted this beta humiliation, or like and also he fetishized about forced bisexuality. And I have spoken about forced feminization last time. A big like crossover fetish is forced bisexuality, which is that the man wants to be made by a powerful woman to perform homosexual sex, but he has to be forced to do that. And like there were so many moments where I just thought to myself, I was like, like obviously this is because this is the homophobia, and then it's more manageable for these people, for these men, if they order, like if they ask for it to be ordered, and so this was his journey. So he was he called himself pansexual, obviously, but he was bisexual, and he was into this, getting talked into being with men. And then his aim was like full demasculization, chastity. He was talking about how his penis is like too small compared to all the other men. And so he was, there is only two roles in pornography. It's either the masculine alpha, that is the performing one, and if you don't fit into that, there is only this other side. And even a bisexual man who wants to be like topped or something, he has to be forced to do it, and that's all part of the kind of like porn narrative. There is only these two things, and sometimes you get made into that. There's these forced feminization fetishes that are even about any man, like, just because you are a man, you get turned into this like lower thing because you're so depraved, or because you watch too much pornography or something like that. So this was his kind of like, I knew that he had this inner turmoil about like about this sexuality
Yeah.
thing business. And then I
And,
knew that he had this. Yeah.
How did that peak trans you? So what, because it seems like it's actually just one of the many things that they might want to do. And men in general want to do, and I guess he was paying you to do it, but lots of men will try and get their girlfriends to do this if they've got one. But what about it was that peak trans you made you think there's something going on with the trans right? Yeah.
Exactly, is that I knew about his story. Like his and my story were kind of like the same. So he told me about his Munchausen by proxy mother. He had like severe skin, like he had a lot of like health problems. And he was talking a bit to me about it. And when I came out, so my first like coming out of the industry and all this kind of stuff was me putting the abuse and the kind of like, the abuse that is perpetuated in the BDSM world, that is actually just a fetishization of like narcissistic abuse. Um, that's what I put together when I finally understood that my abuser, my last abuser, was exactly that. And this was my first peak. And then when I told him this, when I said to him, "Oh, I understood now. All of my life, all of what I've lived so far was a lie. Like I just tried to perform this heteronormativity because I was abused," and even going into as far as the sex trade to kind of like affirm, like to validate, to be like a normal woman in that sense, like to perform the sexy woman, was a lie. And then his coming around was his thing was me. He's like, "Oh my God, your authenticity, your journey has made me realize that I also can come out and understand what is actually wrong with me. And this is what it is. I'm actually a woman." And this is when he first said that, I obviously I didn't agree with it at all because I knew about his history, but I was already like that brainwashed through what I saw online and everything that I couldn't like just go directly into it. But I did ask him like, "Are you sure?" And then, "With your history, with your mother and all this kind of stuff, have you ever had therapy?" And then his response was instantly, "Oh, no, 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 there's only transphobic, there's no like trans inclusive therapists around." And that's where I kind of like already understood, oh my God, this is actually a really, I can't really. Plus, he wanted to have one last session. And yes, I had this double bind thing that I was like, okay, he's going to spend the last money. So I kind of like held out onto my kind of actual response. And that was then finally happening when I saw him the last time. And this is one when the discussion got really bad. And this was after the session. So I did the last session, where I said, like, "This is my last. You are like actually very lucky to get to see me before I exit." And then after the session was done, I sat down with him, and then we argued about J.K. Rowling and all this kind of stuff. And I read her stuff by then, and he was just like, "No, she's transphobic." And when I asked, "So you actually think you're a woman? You want to get into women's spaces?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. For me, the NHS waiting list is really long, but like, yeah, so it's my dream." And then my next question was, "So what about your penis?" And he's like, "Oh no, I'm not very dysphoric about that." So that's when I actually was like, "What? Okay." And this is when I had to make him leave. Like I was just like, okay, if this is going any further, he is stronger than me. He could go mental. So I just sent him away. And then afterwards, like, this was when I was like fully like just like, wow, okay, this is a physical man. I know how emotionally um, challenged he is. Literally, he has no self-reflection, no self-awareness, and anything that I talked about didn't actually like sink in. I told him that my body-mind issue that I have carried from childhood has led me into this world to perform something that wasn't me at all. And I had been dissociated for my whole life. And this was his response. It's very insane. So this is kind of like,
yeah. And how common do you think this is? Do you think this is quite a big thing going on, like in the sex industry? That's because it sounds. I mean, I'm finding it hard to completely understand this, but it sounds as if you're that that this is happening more and more because of so much porn, and it's like,
Definitely.
and it's a route. It's going to, the more porn people consume, the more men are going to think that they're women. Is that maybe
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So it's based on inadequacy again. There is a man who makes videos on YouTube, and he is calling this channel Sissy Recovery. Very interesting. The man is a bit weird, but he actually has got all the points together, and he calls it the same way that I've always understood it. It's an inadequacy-based fetish. So it's based on these stereotypes. There's only the two stereotypes. I explained this already. And
yeah.
men that are thriving on shame and on like self-humiliation, they will go down demasculization things, or like an animal. It's the power reversal. It's never about like they're perverting these roles literally just to reinforce this humiliation, and it's just based on inadequacy
And
fetishes basically.
I don't know
And
if you've read the Gynecology by Mary Daly, but Mary Daly, I mean, this is making me think very much of what she writes about D.H. Lawrence and Gandhi, both of whom were bottoms, were the masochists. And she talks about how they had sort of sexual fetishes, and they wanted to be these hero masochists, but they also got a lot from it because they were glorified as these hero males. And I was thinking, as you're talking, that if they keep the penis and they get the sexual satisfaction from it, and they are male in the world, they can make their peace with being bottoms or being masochists, and enjoy their bottomness. So it's like a perfect thing for a beta male or a whatever. Yeah, tell me what you think.
exactly, absolutely. Yeah, and what is really important is that um, I think within the sex trade world as well, like these roles aren't even like questioned anymore. There is only these two roles, and it is very brave for either to adapt to either of those roles, because it is kind of like still seen as like non-conforming. It's like you're giving up the power or something like this, and this is something to be clapped at. This is something to be, and not wanting to be an alpha male, for example, is like a good thing these days. This is like kind of what they're basing it on. So I guess, yeah, this is something that yeah, they can applaud themselves over not being toxic male, and I think this is really important. And yeah, you asked how common it is. Like there's several articles. Like if you go onto forced feminization Wikipedia, like you will see that there is a HuffPost article quoted that says that it's the most commonly requested fetish that is asked of dominatrixes. And then there's a Vice article that is, I think, only in German, in German Vice, and they even speak about how there's a big like how it used to be a cis heterosexual male thing, but it's expanding to like lots of men are doing it now, and even pansexual men and all this kind of stuff. So they're even opening up this whole thing about like, no, it's not a fetish anymore. A lot of like trans-identified males use this fetish, like it kind of like makes them realize and stuff like that. It's all bullshit, but again, it's growing, and it has been growing more and more, and there's even more fetishes that kind of like orient themselves on like the political movement. I have spoken about this interracial cuckolding and this fetish which is called Black New World Order, and they have also spun it further now, and especially in Germany, to Muslim New World Order, where white males are getting degraded to be performing as sissies for the free use of those animalistic actual alpha males that are either Black or Muslim. And it's kind of like, playing on this whole,
Can I?
yeah, yeah.
What Mary Daly says is that she said that D.H. Lawrence was. No, it's not. It's Lawrence of Arabia. It's not D.H. Lawrence. It's Lawrence of Arabia, who's a known masochist. So sorry. But Gandhi knew that he wanted to sort of suck energy off the psychological and the spiritual energy, or the sort of internal energy of women. So he surrounded himself with women, at the same time as saying he was going to do this special religious restraint from sex. But he would, when he turn up in a village, he would say to a man, right, I want your 2 teenage daughters to sleep with me tonight, and as my part of my religious practice, I'm not going to have sex with them, but it's part of me becoming a higher person. Can I do it? And Daly talks about a time when a man says, have me, take me, I'll sleep with you, and Gandhi says, no, I don't want you, I want the women. And she says about how these men, at the same time as saying that they're submissive, etc., they want our energy. And what do you think? Did you get the feeling that? Do they? Because it seems like it might be the same. They want something of you. They're taking things from you. Well, yeah. Sorry.
I mean, yes. I mean, what they buy when they buy any services are very specific things. They like, when you play this role, you have to play it well, and you have to give them exactly what they want. And there is only a limited approach. Like, you can only give them exactly what they buy, and there's no way around it. And there is absolute control about. I mean, they will talk themselves into, oh, this woman really likes turning me into like a beta male or whatever, but I just want money. Like, I just have to perform something that I hope will keep you there, and makes you give me money and perhaps return. But it is like, when it comes to this reversal, and anyway, about anything about femdom, like anything about female domination as a fetish is totally disconnected from what women actually would want of as a dominant woman, and it's only about performing exactly the stereotypes and the pre-made kind of like idea that has been buzzing around now for probably more than 100 years or something, or about 100 years.
And so what about your you're getting the message out? What do you think are the key points you want to get out, and who do you think, who do you want to communicate with, and what do you want to tell people? And I mean, I guess it's why, and what change can we affect by you getting your message out?
As someone coming from Germany, where sex work is is paraded around everywhere, it's I think it is really important that women really know what the pornography has like created now, like how far it has come, because it's literally feeding these both pools of men. Okay, so there's men that thrive on the sadist, like masculine, like alpha male kind of thing, and they get more and more depraved. And then for all of them that are younger and younger and experience like erectile dysfunction, are calling themselves like virgins because they haven't had sex when they were like 18 or something, and feel like they have failed, in this sex obsessed, depraved, male sexuality fueled, pornified world that we're living in. This industry fuels this for lifetimes, and it also creates obviously the self-objectified woman as a product, in more and more ways, because now we have like diversity and all this kind of stuff, and it's not like it used to be 20 years ago. Now there is a fetish, there's a genre, there's a market for every single type of woman, You know, it's not only, it's literally anyone can be marketed now, anyone will be exploited. And yeah, and all of this will fuel this more and more, this actual insane racist, misogynist, stereotype enforcing industry. And we'll have to really speak about it. I think really speak about it to any woman who has discussions with people who don't believe that this is going on, or how much these fetishes actually impact our society. I think please send them my videos. I will continue to create more and more interviews, and I hope to get down and write some essays finally, because this is something that I'm really struggling, but it's easiest for me to talk about it. And please listen to me. I'm the only dominatrix who actually got out and actually is critically talking about all this insanity, and has the knowledge about all of this. So yeah, I'm happy to
and what would you say to
ask.
say? I mean, I'm particularly thinking of young women. It's what advice would you give to them as they're sort of thinking of possibly having a boyfriend or hopefully having a girlfriend? What from your insight, and you know, in Britain they're promoting women doing sex work to help supplement their incomes, and you know that. So what would you say? What should they do?
I think stop listening to the mainstream. The mainstream says it's all cool, and if the male shares his disgusting fetishes with you, you are supposed to be like smiling about it and thanking him for his openness, which is what I actually have done with a lot of men, and I thought that was good for years and decades. And I think it's really important to ask critically and to be very aware of the porn culture and about how consent and how women's like actual sexuality is not being respected. And it's a very dangerous path to go down. Yeah, like any form of self-objectifying behavior on the internet. I keep finding really horrible like Reddits and stuff like where they expose women in the trade, or even just private women. I think we have to talk more about internet security and privacy, safety and stuff. I think yeah, don't fall for the lies when it comes to all this online prostitution, because the only time that I ever earned a lot of money as someone who doesn't look like a very quote unquote like standard the commercial femininity performing woman, it's really difficult to make money in this industry, and it's insane how much propaganda there is. I have only earned really high when I wasn't sleeping or doing anything else but being available for some men online, and it was disgusting, and it's really draining. And we have to openly talk about you know, yeah, like beauty standards, everything regarding the male gaze, and be very critical about it. And there is no such thing as ethical pornography or anything. There is none such thing. I have had a couple of offers from even this woman in Spain, I forgot her name again, this ethical pornographer, and all you get is more money, and I would have done anything for that more money. Like by that time I would have done anything, and there is nothing about boundaries being like more important. Porn is porn, and it's very exploitative. And
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I suppose I would say that the real advice to young women that I would give is just don't date men, don't date males,
also
because
yeah, I
yeah,
don't
I mean,
that's
just
also,
don't,
yeah,
because
like
that's unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, that's the situation we're in. It's just clear that they're all just sort of in this porn culture, and it's going to be incredibly damaging for you as a female.
yeah,
So either lucky if you're a lesbian, or become a lesbian, as us political lesbians believe you can choose to be a lesbian, or don't date the men, keep away from them,
yeah.
which is a very sort of sad thing, because to in a way, but I can't see another option.
I I don't see it either. And if you do find someone, then just be very very, very careful. That's it. But yeah, I have never met any man who it didn't see it. It doesn't matter if he was like quote unquote nice or whatever. The depravity really does something to their brains, and it's not good. And yeah, it's very dangerous, basically. So.
What about other people? Have you got links with other people who've been in the sex trade who are speaking out?
I'm networking with, obviously, for example, organizations like You, My Sister. They have also really helped me out when I left. And yeah, I found lots of contact through that. And then when I actually left the sex trade and then moved back to Germany, to my home country, and I have also got to find lots of brave women who have also exited, especially in this country where it's really horrible, where there's not really any funding or anything for survivors to get out. And so yeah, this was actually the first sisterhood in my life that I actually was looking for. Like my whole life I was looking for this kind of like feeling of like not being alone. And when I first entered the sex trade, I thought, oh yeah, there's lots of traumatized women. I kind of like, I get you, but then I got out, and then I found all these survivors, and I was like, oh my God. And most of us, and this is the most insane story, is that we all have the same story. It's just so insane, like early childhood trauma, bullying in school, feeling different, alienated, and then kind of like stumbling into this insanity. And so proud that we got out, and I hope to get more people to wake up and get out, get help. I mean, it would be great if more governments and more people would care and give more money to exiting programs. But I'm not gonna ever stop speaking about it until something happens. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, there are some very positive things, like the work of Gail Dines, who does the cultural reframes in the States, that she quite often talks about success that she's having against the porn industry, but obviously they're totally linked. And that some governments change the laws and are positive. And so I suppose we can have hope that there are some quite strong organizations, and Nordic Model now is very sort of known, and it seems to be progressing. But unfortunately in Germany it's horrific, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to be taking a while, but again, we are not going to stop. And I hope, I don't know, I hope, we can only hope. Otherwise, we have no we have nothing to do. So yeah.